In Project 3, we're going to take a look at creating a custom dictionary, and then we'll add some specific terms to that dictionary. By default, Word uses the dictionary called custom.dic, and if a particular word is not in that custom dictionary, then obviously it will, well, custom DIC, I don't want to get that confused because that's Word's name for its custom dictionary. But if words aren't in that dictionary, then they'll be flagged throughout your document as you run a spell check, or if you have the option turned on, those words that are misspelled will be highlighted with an red underscore. So in Project 3, though, we will learn to create one of our own, and this will be very practical if you were to work in a medical office or a legal office where you have specific terms that may not normally be added to a custom dictionary. So you may want to create your own so that when you run the spell check, it doesn't always stop on the legal terms or the medical terms that you know are spelled correctly. So once we create this custom dictionary, we'll run a spell check based on those words in the custom dictionary, and then we'll learn to remove the dictionary from our dialog box as well. So now what they wanted us to see here, though, we were going to open up a file called Bank Brazil, and you'll notice there are several misspelled words here that are underscored in red. However, there are some words that are underscored, this banco, I don't know how to say those, but those may be spelled correctly, but they're not in our dictionaries and we're not really familiar with them. But if you worked for that particular company, maybe it's a foreign-based company operating in the United States or whatever, you would certainly want to add that to the dictionary because you're probably going to use that word quite frequently in your documents that you're creating. So it may be necessary for you to create a custom dictionary and then add those words that are spelled correctly into those dictionaries so that when you run your spell check, it doesn't stop on them all the time. So with that, we're going to close out of this document. We'll open it up a little bit later, and they just want us to be in a blank document to begin with, and we'll create a custom dictionary with a blank document. Okay, so to create a custom dictionary, we're going to go to the File tab, Options, we've been here before, Proofing, and then you should see the Custom Dictionaries button. We're going to click on that. That'll bring up the Custom Dictionary dialog box, and you can see the default dictionary there that's actually housed on our C drive in this particular folder. We are going to add a new one. So if you look on the right hand side, we'll just click the new button, and we're going to leave it in the default area that they have, that it defaults to, and we're going to go ahead and type in, I'm going to type in my first and last name, and I know it's up here. Actually, I'm going to put my middle name in there so it'll be different than the one I have previously. Okay, and then we'll click Save, and you can't have any spaces in there. They all need to be one word. So click on Save. You'll notice now that it's been added to the dictionary list. And then what we'd like to do is make that our default. We want to make our custom dictionary the default dictionary. And we'll come back to that in just a minute. We're going to add the words first, and then we'll make it our default dictionary. Okay? So I want to make sure that my custom dictionary is selected, and then we want to edit the word list, and then we're going to add the words that you'll see on page 63, and this is step 2, item F, and then 3. So the first one, and I'm not going to be able to say any of these, so I'll just type them in and you can kind of watch what I'm doing here. Once you type in the word, click Add, and it'll add it to the dictionary. The remaining words are listed below in G, letter G. And actually, I think I'm going to pause so you don't have to watch me type these in. As you can see, I've added all the words that they suggest in the dictionary that are listed on page 63. They've put them in alphabetical order as I typed them in. I also noticed too, as I type these in, rather than having to click down and click Add, you can just press Enter after you've entered in the word that you want to add. Okay, so once the words have been added, we're going to click OK to get out of that. Takes us back to the Custom Dictionaries dialog box, and at this point we do want to make the custom dictionary that we just created the default dictionary. So we'll go to the right and choose Change Default. Notice now the custom dictionary that we created is now the default. Okay. All right, I'm going to click OK out of that, and we'll click OK out of the Options dialog box. And then we're going to open up that same document, the Brazil document. Go to my student data files. We're looking for Bank Brazil again. Alright, so we have the same document. Now though, notice the underscore under Baco and that other word is not highlighted anymore. Some of these other ones that we've added to the dictionary is no longer in red. They do want us to go ahead and run through a spell check though. Okay, so I'm going to go to the Review tab. In the Proofing group, I'm going to choose Spelling and Grammar. It stops at a word that truly is misspelled, and the suggestion is written. So we'll change that. He pays, okay, that's a grammar deal there, so we want to choose pays on that. Click Change. Generally associated, again, that's misspelled. We'll choose their suggestion. At the time the economy faces, yes, we'll choose the first option there. Click Change. And then we have that default in the options area that we had selected earlier that shows the readability statistics. So those are going to come up automatically since we didn't go through and remove that check mark. So, which is fine. That's always nice to see that after a spell check is complete. So go ahead and click out of that. And they do want us to go back and change the custom dictionary, the one that we created, back to what the default was. So with that, we'll go back to the File tab, back to Options, Proofing, Custom Dictionaries, and then we'll make this custom dictionary the default. And then they actually want us to remove the dictionary that we just created. So we'll click on that and make sure it's selected, and then I'm going to choose Remove. And now we're back to the default dictionary. So go ahead and click OK out of that, and we'll click OK out of the Options dialog box. That gets us back to the document. Notice now it's flagging all those words that are not in the original custom dictionary, which is fine. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the word count. Now we've looked at it in the readability statistics dialog box, but you can also, if you look on your status bar, if you click on the number of words in our document, if you click on that, that opens up the word count, so you can immediately see how many words you have in your document in addition to what it's showing there. But you can also see what the characters are, number of paragraphs you have, and number of lines you have. Notice also in the checkbox that it's including any information, any text that's in text boxes, footnotes, and endnotes. It's counting those as well. And there may be times when you don't want those included, so you could deselect that and it wouldn't count the words in your footnotes and endnotes. Okay, so click Close out of that. Again, I just clicked on the words option in my status bar. Alright, then we're going to take a look at the thesaurus, which is another great proofing type tool that helps improve your writing. And the thesaurus will help you to find synonyms. If you continually find words that you're using over and over again and you want to use a different word that means the same thing, you can choose a synonym. Antonyms are words that mean the opposite of the current word. Related words for a particular word kind of relate to synonyms as well. But we're going to take a look at the thesaurus and see how that can help us improve our writing. So in Project 3B on page 65, they have us opening up this Bank Brazil, and they do want you to change the name of it to Word Level 2, Chapter 2, Project 3. And I'm not going to do that at this point, but alright, so we've displayed the word count already. Next we're going to look at using the thesaurus. In the first paragraph, the word generally, if I can find it, there's one. We want to see what another word for that is, a similar word, a synonym. So one way to do that is if we right click on that, you'll see an option for synonyms, and that will give you some options there that you could use, and they ultimately want us to be selecting the word normally. Before we do that though, I want us to open up the task pane. If you click on the thesaurus here, that will open up the task pane. Also, if you go to the Review tab in the Proofing group, if I can find it, click on the thesaurus button. Notice there also it says Shift F7 will open up the task pane. But in any event, that'll get you the research pane open, and within that the thesaurus will be what will be selected. So, and it lists out the same, very similar to what we saw before when we right-clicked. Notice also it selected it for us, even though we were in the middle. We didn't select it previously, we were just in the middle of that word, but now it's highlighted it for us. We want normally, just if you lay your mouse on that, it'll give you a drop-down arrow, and we want to insert. And that'll replace generally with normally. Acquaintances is another one that they want us to make changes to, and it's right here. Again, if we just right click on it, choose synonyms, and then we want friends, you can choose it here. The third one will go back to using the task pane here just a second. We're looking for combat. It's in the second paragraph. Click inside here, and let's if we close out of that, I think bringing it up again, I'm going to right click, go into synonyms and thesaurus, and again you could hit Shift F7, you could have gone up to the ruler, whichever, and that puts the search for text box there. And then we want to replace combat with battle. So you can lay our mouse on there, click on the drop down arrow and insert, and that places that within our paragraph. Okay, and then you can close out that research pane again by clicking on the X in the upper right hand corner. In Project 3C, they do have you using the right click feature, so we'll go through and do that again. They're having us look for the word Vogue, and this is in the third paragraph. They say second sentence, so right there. If we right click on that, they want us to change our word to fashion. So I'm going to synonyms and fashion. So that changed Vogue to fashion. Okay? Alright, I'm going to go ahead and close out of this without saving. And Project 4 is going to allow us to look at how we can search for information using that research task pane. And then also we're going to look at the translation feature that allows us to translate text from English into another language. It might be Spanish, French, Arabic. There are all kinds of languages that you can translate into. Just a couple of things here. To get into that research task pane, where we will do some online research as well as the translate feature, if you go to the review tab and choose the research button right here, that'll bring up obviously the research task pane. The other thing though, if you look right in here, notice it says Alt click. We'll also open that up, so if you press Alt and then just click in your document, that opens up the research task pane as well. So that's kind of slick too, if you can remember that. But and then you can search for items here. You can have it look for information. This is all online information, okay? From dictionaries, you can use the thesaurus there as well. Research sites such as Bing, HiBeam. They've got some other financial sites that are listed as well. What's listed in this drop-down menu depends on where you're located, obviously, in the United States, in the world. And then also it depends on what authorization has been given to you through Microsoft, and also your internet provider can also determine what's listed here. So you may not have the same options that I have. Even what the book talks about, we may not have those options as well. You may not have them at home, you may not have them at your office. So again, a lot of variables there as to what's listed and what's available to you to research online. In Project 4A, we're going to look at the research task pane. We're going to research the word avatar. And first of all, we're going to look up avatar just to see what the meaning of it is, and then we're going to look in an encyclopedia to see what it has to say about an avatar. So the first thing that we want to do is type in the word that we're looking for, which is avatar. And then in the drop down box right below it, we're going to choose the Encarta Dictionary, English North America. And it'll search in that dictionary and it'll give you the pronunciation of it. And then it also gives you definitions of the avatar. So you can see it's an incarnation of Hindu deity. You can read through that. It's an embodiment of something, somebody who embodies an idea or concept. It's an image of somebody in virtual reality, which is an online movable three-dimensional image used to represent somebody in cyberspace. Computer game, lots of definitions for avatar. Next, we're going to take a look at an encyclopedia, or actually it's Wikipedia, but you could look at encyclopedia too. We sometimes frown upon Wikipedia, not recognizing it as the most reliable source. Okay, sorry, I apologize for the phone ringing. So we can search for avatar in some of the research sites. They're going to suggest Bing, which underneath that we'll find a Wikipedia link, which I mentioned before. Sometimes we frown upon that because the information there can be changed pretty readily. So anyway, we've got avatar in there. Now we're going to click on the drop down area. We'll choose Bing as the research site. And then you can see some information here. Notice the Avatar 2009 film, the Wikipedia, which is the free encyclopedia. Let's see. Giving you additional information there. We could click on one of these. Let's see what happens. Go to the hyperlink. And this would take us into a web browser. Let me resize this if I can, or move it or something. Hopefully you can see that, but it gives you an article. Again, it's on Wikipedia, but it gives you an article about Avatar. You can read through that. Notice there's a lot of links within that document as well, that when you click on it, it would take you out to additional information. So great tool just to be able to quickly get to the online sources based on text that you key in the search for text box area. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of Wikipedia. Takes us back to our Word document, and I'm going to go ahead and close out of the research pane. And then the next section of Project 4 is the translating text feature that we're going to take a look at. And again, that's in the research task pane as well. And we're going to take a look at some of the options within the translate button. But before we do that, we want to use the research task pane first to search for a specific word. And again, we're just operating from a blank document. We're going to go to the research tab, into the research pane. Again, you could alt click if you wanted to get in there. And in the search for text box, we're going to type in keyboard correctly, hopefully. And then on the drop down arrow, we're going to go back to translation. And you'll notice that'll bring up the translation area below, and we want to make sure that we've got it from English, because that is English, and then we want to translate it into Spanish for now, which it's already selected there. And when you do that, it automatically puts in information. This is the Spanish version of keyboard, and if you want to translate it into something else, like into French, they suggest, if you click on French, France, it'll automatically take keyboard, and at the bottom, and now we have the translation of keyboard into French. So pretty easy to do that. You just need to make your change to the appropriate language, and it automatically updates that at the bottom. Okay? We'll close out of the task pane here just briefly. Alright, in addition to that research task pane, we also have the translate button. Again, on the review tab, language group, translate. There are three options here that we can use for translation. The first one is translate document, show a machine translation in a web browser. And what will happen there is it actually takes your document and you send it out online, and Microsoft actually has a translator software package that will translate your entire document. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. You can also translate just selected text. So you can choose words or whatever within your document and have it translate for us. You can also use the mini translator, where essentially you've got a phrase or just a single word that you want to translate into another language. So, and you can see at the top of page 69 the translation language options dialog box. We'll take a look at that in just a minute. We'll go ahead and try this. I'm not sure how far we're going to get, but in project 4C we're going to open up the resume styles document, and they do have us changing it to Word Level 2, Chapter 2, Project 4, Resume Styles, which I'm not going to do. But what we're going to attempt to do with this document is we're going to translate the the entire well, we'll just take a portion of this, the language itself. We'll translate the language to Spanish. So to start that process, again, as I mentioned, under the Review tab, translate, and then we're going to go into the dialog box, which is this Choose Translation Language. That takes you into their dialog box, and within the dialog box we just want to make sure that we have translate from, which is English, and then the translate to will be Spanish. Okay, and then we can click OK, and we just want to make sure, verify that we're translating to the right language. If you wanted some other language, you click on the drop down arrow and you've got all these languages that are available to you. Okay, so I'm going to cancel out of that because it does have Spanish as the default there. So we're going to take this document, translate it to Spanish using Microsoft's translator, and we'll see how far we get on this. But we're going to go back to the translate button, and we're going to translate document. Notice the default there is English to Spanish. Go ahead and click on that, and it says Word's about to send the document for translation over the internet using encrypted HTML format. Do you want to do that? Yes, we're going to try it. So it's taken that short paragraph and translated it to Spanish. Let me make it a little bit bigger here. And we want to take this, we're going to copy it. If I can get it selected here, let me start at the bottom. And I'm just going to press Control C, and that will put it in copy mode. And then I'm going to close out the translator. We're going to go to the end of this document, and I'm going to paste that translation into our document so that we have the English version at the top, the Spanish version in a paragraph below. Okay, so again, what that first option did is it took the entire document, sent it out to the translator software within Microsoft. It translated it, put it in paragraph format in your web browser, and then we were able to copy and paste it back into our Word document. Okay, all right, let's close out of this document. We're going to open up another one and try some more translation. The document that we're looking at this time is Translate Terms. Again, they have us opening that, and they want us to save it as Word Level 2, Chapter 2, Project 4, Translate Terms. And again, I'm going to forego that. What we're going to do now is take the word central in each one of these, and we're going to translate them into Spanish and into French. Okay, so click on the Review tab, Translate, and choose Translate Language. Just want to make sure this has Spanish in here. Okay, that's the goal, what they're trying to do there. And let me go back in there just a second and make sure. Yeah, the mini translator is also set to Spanish as well, which is good. That's what we want. Okay, then we're going to go back to the Translate button, and we're going to go to the mini translator. And now, when we lay our mouse on that term, central, if I can get it to come up, it'll put in what the Spanish word is. And within that, they want us to take one of those terms, and actually they say type it in. Let's do this El Centro here. And you know what? I guess you do have to type in. So you can type in El Centro is basically what they want. They want us to do that for every word. Again, if you lay your mouse on the word, it'll pop up with the dialog box, and again, wish there was some way we could see what the copy does. Nope, takes the whole one. Okay, so that's why they're having us type it in. So you go to each one of these separately, bring up the dialog box, find out what the word is, and then type it into the columns there. Okay, now if you want to do the same thing for French, you have to go back into the translate button, choose your translate language, choose France there. And we only really need it for the mini translator. However, let's go ahead just to make sure, in case they want us to do something different in the end here that I'm not aware of, that we'll change that to France as well. Okay, and so now when we lay our mouse on central, we'll get a different word, le centre in the center. So le centre would be what you type in for the French column, and you do that for every word. And once you click on that, it'll bring up the dialog box, and you can pull out the word that means each one of these in the term column. Okay, so I'll forego actually typing those in, but at least you know how to get to those using the mini translator. Now that concludes chapter 2. The chapter summary is actually on page 71 and 72, so make sure you review that. The concepts check is on pages 72, 73, and the skills check, make sure that you go through. If you need additional help with spelling and grammar, choosing the translate, if you want to go through and actually do additional translation of words, you can see that in some of the assessments, and then also the visual benchmarks that are on page 75 and 76. So, and as always, feel free to email me or call me if you have questions.